Hey, welcome to the video. Here's what I need you to do. Smash the like button, subscribe to the page, and check out the podcast below in the description.
This video is sponsored by Indeed.com/ham, where right now you can get a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/ham. Bruce Feldman in The Athletic wrote this. And now The Athletic is hearing rumblings from both the NFL side and Michigan that Jim Harbaugh might be tempted to leave the Wolverines to return to the NFL. Quote, "I think it's real," said one source this week when asked about the possibility of Harbaugh being interested in the NFL. Feldman would go on to write extensively about the Raiders and Harbaugh and would include a line that maybe the Bears make sense for Jim. You and I have been talking about this for a while now, the possibility of Harbaugh returning to coach in the NFL. And now the discussion has begun once again. And we know once Feldman writes it, because you texted me, you're like, Harbaugh to the Raiders? And I said, wait, did it just happen? I just read Feldman's piece like an hour ago. Because I started going through Twitter and people are talking about it now. So it's picking up steam.
It does make some sense. Once upon a time, you and I had a show associated on a company that was in business with the Raiders, and we wanted it to happen. It would have been incredible for business. It was much more biased. Like it might have helped them be good, but it would have been incredible for business. It didn't happen. And there were some stories that Mark Davis might have talked to him under a bridge. Do you remember that? But remember when they mutually parted? He was Michigan. If I remember correctly, when they mutually departed after that last game, 2014, Michigan had an announcement within a couple hours. Like there was no delay. He was like the head coach of Michigan pretty immediately. I would be shocked if Mark Davis is not very interested, because I think the one thing you still need, and Rich has done an admirable job, and the Raiders are, I think, easily becoming one of like the feel-good stories of the year. Just what Derek, Renfro, the coaching staff, like how they're even in this game. I mean, they just had another DUI. Yesterday, who his agent claimed that it wasn't an actual DUI, but it's like, bro, you can pull over at 4 a.m. asleep.
Asleep on an off-ramp in a parking garage, different than like an off-ramp on a highway.
He was not like on a side ramp, just like getting off a highway.
It was on a parking garage ramp. So my question would be, did he just fall asleep while trying to drive, or did he realize I got a problem, I better stop the vehicle and just go to sleep? But in any event, it's bad.
Oh, I didn't read that much into it. But Jim Harbaugh, like at the end of the day, Vegas needs to be like, this is a really cool moment for them, right? Having this big game at Allegiant. I went and looked, like the tickets are really expensive. Vegas is a big game town, and they really haven't had that many big games. Now they've only had fans for this 1 year, but part of having big games, you got to be good. And I think you watch it like, well, Ruggs is never coming back, right? One clip I saw of like Derek running for his life was because Brandon Parker can't block anybody. And I saw that Dubal quoted the tweet, and it's like, why is this guy a right tackle? And Dubal's like, well, because the guy you drafted to be the right tackle couldn't play it, and you moved him to left guard, and Leatherwood was like in the other corner. So, they got some problems. And Jim Harbaugh historically has been a fixer, and he's a pretty famous name, but I would say way different than, while he has some similarities to Gruden, right? His name is just so big. Like you just say Harbaugh, people just get a reaction. Everyone's got an opinion. He's been pretty consistently a winner, right? Like he's a pretty good football coach. He's a much better football. I know Gruden has the one Super Bowl, but like over the last 15 years, it's not even a question who's the better football coach. It would be an upgrade as a football coach.
He's elevated everything he's taken over.
Pretty substantially, right?
4 for 4. Yeah. And the last, you would say in both San Francisco and Michigan, and really Stanford, it's been tied to, the staff he had at Stanford was obviously a very good staff. And he had luck. The staff he had with the 49ers, proven again. Greg Roman knows what he's doing. And he had Vic Fangio and Brad
Seeley.
Defensive
coordinator.
So he had a very good defensive coordinator, but his offensive staff, they took a step forward, right? He went and got Josh Gaddis a couple of years ago, and they've elevated their offense.
His defensive coordinator is like a younger guy that he hired from Baltimore. I think is pretty good.
That's right, because he replaced Dr. Blitz.
Yeah.
Who's now the coach at UMass. But he would need that. He would still need that. But I think one thing is clear, like Jim Harbaugh can hire. Jim Harbaugh.
Maybe that's the reason they've been losing to Ohio State. Like, I don't know if I'd blitz Justin Fields and C.J. Stroud when they got 7 million Marvin Harrison Juniors. Like, let's just play some coverage. Dr. Blitz.
Dr. Blitz. So I think it would work. I think it would be high on Mark's list. I think you're right. I think if he didn't take the Michigan job after he left the Niners, he would have taken the Raiders job. I believe that. I think he would have been the Raiders coach. I think it made sense for him, obviously, to go to his alma mater. And it made sense for him if he was going to leave the Niners. I think for him personally, all right, I'm not going to get run out of the Niners and then go to another NFL job. It's an easier, I'm resetting sell if I go to Michigan to help my alma mater. And on one hand, you could say he just beat Ohio State. He's got it rolling. Now this is the time to stay. To me, you could argue he beat Ohio State. He's probably not going to do that every year. He elevated Michigan clearly. This is the time to go.
Didn't Michigan make him the highest paid coach in the country when he got that job?
I think when they hired him, but then last year they cut his pay.
No, I know, but I mean for like 5 years he was making like 9 or 10 million. He was making 9 million back when 9 million was most guys were making like 3 or 4.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So this could also be part of that, right? You cut my pay last year, pandemic. It's time for me to get my money back and then some. I just had a great year. I did you a solid. But now you're going to have to get on your knees and beg me to stay by paying me a ton of money. That's the position he's got Michigan in right now, which also means that he's got the Raiders in a position to have to pay him a ton of money. Now, Mark Davis wasn't afraid to cut $100 million for John Gruden, so he could do it.
I don't know if I do the 10-year deals. I wouldn't either.
The question for Mark is he getting out of the other $10 million he owes John? Is he getting out of the other 10?
It's probably a fluid situation right now that I'm sure the lawyers, are going back and forth.
Doesn't want to have $20 million committed to a coach next year?
Well, how many lawsuits does John have going on? Is he fighting Mark? He's definitely fighting the league. Is Gruden just going to be in and out of the courtroom for a while?
Yeah, I don't know. I would not count.
Does he have enough? Does he have enough pettiness like a Mike Leach? Like, I ain't letting this go, guys.
Somebody in my DMs claimed that it got closer than even people know last time with the Raiders. And maybe that's why Michigan ended up paying so much money, is because Michigan had a competitor for him. And ultimately it was, I think, again, a great sell for him. I've been to a Michigan game. I've been to 2 Michigan games. I've been to one when Harbaugh was coaching there. And it's incredible. I understand why it's a big pull for him. But his history says he doesn't stay places forever. And it's not just the Raiders now. I mean, the Bears, he played quarterback for the Bears, and that's a historic franchise. Right? He's got a couple of good options.
I would say this, though. Now, Derek is going to need a new contract. That's just going to be one of the biggest offseason conversations, whatever happens on Sunday Night Football, right? If Derek outplays Herbert, I just don't see how they have a choice.
I think if he wins, I think what's been impressive with Derek the last few weeks, he has not put up big numbers. He's thrown picks, but he's in the big moments made plays against the Browns, in the big moments made plays against the Broncos, and in the big moments made plays against the Colts. So I just think it's if he wins and goes to the playoffs, John, I don't think he's got to outplay Herbert.
He actually, to me, feels very Jim Harbaugh-y quarterback. When you just watch the quarterbacks that Jim's played with, even like McNamara now, he likes an athletic guy, but he ultimately a thrower of the football. Obviously, Andrew Luck, was the best version of that. Alex Smith. Jim historically has not demanded to get Patrick Mahomes, right? I think he'd look at Derek Carr I can win with this guy. We got some pieces. Let's add some more pieces, and let's fucking roll. Now, the big question mark would be with Harbaugh, does that mean Mayock's gone?
The second best quarterback he's ever had, behind Luck.
Better than Alex? Alex, more accomplished career. I think so. I think if you gave Andy Reid which quarterback would you have wanted at 28 years old, he would have gone with Derek. Though I think he likes, I don't know, but Derek's character, they would have got along really well too. I do just wonder. There are just some question marks. Does everyone get fired? Does Jim even want to fuck with the personnel staff? That'd be my question. To me, Jim. But he'd have enough juice to get that. Does Mark really want that? I think he just saw that and it was kind of got a little weird fast. But ideally you can't force people to get married, right? I mean, you can, but it happens in other countries. And a lot of people that I knew actually a girl who's married to a buddy who got her way out of it. And she was in an arranged marriage her whole life, because in the culture in Pakistan, and pulled a curveball, and it didn't happen. And I think, in a weird way, we can't even relate to that, but I think people can in job situations. We talk about it a lot because it's a public business, and like football or pro sports, shotgun marriages. It happens a lot in companies where it's just not public, right? It happens at, big corporations where you have to work for a guy. I don't know the guy. You may never like him, and he's just buying his time. They're like, hey, can you try to work with this guy? But he already knows he wants to get rid of him. I do wonder how maybe they're friends. Maybe they've known each other for a while. They feel like maybe they'd get along. Like Gruden, Mayock, and Harbaugh all kind of feel like they're cut from the same cloth of just like they like football more than everything else in life, beside maybe like their wife and their daughter, But that is a big question mark. Like, does Jim get to pick all the players? Like, he never did that in San Francisco.
Does he want to?
Well, I don't know. But does he have a guy? Does he I want to work? Would Jim even have a guy?
No, you're right. I wonder. I don't know if we'll ever know if Jim.
Because even if Rich wins this game, if Jim Harbaugh wants your job, Rich is not. Now, I could see like, hey, keep him as your special teams coach, keep him as special team coach, they keep rolling. I can see that.
It could be very simple. Like Bisaccia has a chance to keep the job depending on who else wants the job, right? Like I wouldn't be shocked if Mark Davis is willing to stick with him if he doesn't see anything else that he likes more. It would be interesting if Harbaugh got the job at his introductory press conference. Like, did John Madden try to get him to take the job the last time around? Right? We know Madden and the Harbaughs are on had texting relationships, and better than texting. I would imagine Jim spent some time in Pleasanton over the years between Stanford and the 49ers. Madden came out to see him. They talk. That would be another element to this. Another connection between the Raiders and Jim.
Do you think
in addition to the fact that he worked for them?
Can Jim leave accomplishing what he accomplished with his head high? I finally beat Ohio State, and we got to the playoffs. Yeah. I did it.
Yeah.
Because Michigan isn't Ohio State. I think we've come.
Well, they're not beating them next year. I saw somebody say it in the chat, and I agree. They're not beating them. Michigan's not beating them again next year.
Well, they're losing their best player in the draft, and Ohio State, they're losing some guys. Is 11? Is he going to the pros, or is he coming back?
Smith and Jigba?
Yeah.
No, he's back. He's a true sophomore.
Okay, so that's why he played.
Yeah, he'll skip next year's bowl game. Actually, he won't because they'll be in the playoff.
Yeah, with Marvin Harrison and 7 other
and Heisman Trophy winner C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, these brothers, like Georgia's Dalvin Cook's brothers on it. Like, where are these guys? It's just Purdue.
Yeah, Dalvin's brother
coming from. These guys are just. You're right. That's a great point. They're not beating Ohio State next year. They're just not going to be. There's no way he can live up to this season.
I also just wonder fundamentally, does he? And this is a more basic, big picture. Does he feel like Michigan is as committed as Ohio State? Everything I've always heard is, Michigan loves football, but they're not quite as an institution as committed to it as Ohio State is.
Do you think it's easier to be committed to basketball? Just less resources and less people? Like, it's probably just more, it's more financially of a burden for institutions to just push all their chips in on football. It's just more expensive.
I mean, it's why a smaller school like football.
But my point is, like, Michigan is a powerhouse in basketball and has been, it feels like, for the last 10, 20 years, right? Do you think it's just easier for them to just keep paying a lot to, because paying Juwan Howard, I don't have to pay Juwan Howard $10 million. I can pay him $4 million. Right. And he only has 4 assistants. Jim needs 17 assistants. Then he needs a GM with like 3 other guys.
And his own 7 strength and conditioning coaches, his own dietitian, team meals at every.
When in the last couple of years when you go out to Niner practice, how they have those wood things, like the wood. It's like an obstacle course.
Oh yeah.
Well, on John Lynch's football life, he met this trainer that they used to in San Diego run an obstacle course to train with like NFL players in the 90s. It looked just like that. The same exact look, this wood stuff. And John was a big believer in it just made him a better football player. And obviously, it's probably pretty rare that a GM has this idea to do for the player, but it's like John Lynch has this idea, hey, this help me, I don't know, make Pro Bowls, all pros in the Hall of Fame. That's why they instituted it. Like, if you watch Football Life, you will see that thing. You're like, oh my God, I've seen that before. And it wasn't, let's just guess, all that material, I don't know, $50,000 was set up. It just adds up. Football coaches have a lot of ideas, and every single one of them costs money. And it usually encapsulates minimum 10 people, because you have a group of 100 people on a team. It's just very, very expensive.
Yeah.
I do think it's much easier to be all in basketball and be consistently good. It's just cheaper.
Yep.
Like, can you imagine what some of Jim's demands are? Just cost money.